crisp. Now you can hear me. Now you can hear me. There we go. Yep, Super Deluxe, blah, blah, blah. Yep, microphone, all that good stuff. And we are live. Hey, the man of the hour. Yes, sorry for a little bit late delay here. Trying to get ducks in a row. Ducks in a row. Paste this in here. And that should start. There we go. There we go. And this should go below here like that. I can do it like this. And then we can have the chat. Hey, how's everybody doing tonight? Sorry for the delay. Just getting everything set up here. I'm going to do a little FlyStream tonight. Maybe I should maybe put that way a little bit. Hope everybody had a great weekend. And yeah, take some Q&A. Do some flying, hopefully without too much crashing. At a newish spot. It's not new for me. New location for a live stream at least. So hopefully this works out. And like I said, so we're flying a Cine Whoop. No Cine Whoops today. We're going to fly the old DJI 6S. We'll address questions, any questions, comments, concerns anybody has. Throw them out there a while. Tune questions, just questions in general, or just general chat. But without to fill the gap there, I talked about doing tonight is a little bit of tuning on like how do you figure out the P or the pitch roll thing. Like, you know, we talk a lot about tuning and PD balance and I terms and D terms and all these terms, but you have, you know, the two axes right here. You have the roll and then the pitch. How do you tune between those two? You know, what are the little tips and tricks in that regard? So we'll hit that up here and hopefully have some success. So let's do a pack challenge. How many packs? Yeah, I might learn something tonight, right? Hopefully I don't learn to crash. So the worst thing in the live stream, right, is if I push it too much to try to entertain a little bit, and then I crash. Crashing's not a big deal, but then I have to walk and go get it. And what are you guys going to do while I'm walking to go get it? It's kind of like a little bit of dead space. It's not ideal. So hopefully I won't make that mistake. Last time I crashed, one little crash, but I wasn't not too far away. But I was like, I need like a gopher to go get it. And I also need a gopher to figure out where the heck to do with my DJI. There it is. So my DJI battery. My DJI. At least this time I brought props. Last time I did a live stream, I didn't bring any props. So pack challenge. Who flew? Throw up how many packs you got to fly this weekend or this week. Let's go the whole week and see who has able. Now be honest, you know, don't be cheating. See who has flown the most packs this week. We'll see. And the prize is gonna be bragging rights. Maybe I'll think about it more next time. 12, not too bad. 12, not too bad. Not too shabby. 25, yeah. 2010, yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. See if there's any crazy Min Chan Kim flyers out there. I saw the one thing he posted. He had like 150 packs a day challenge. Jesus, man. That's a lot of packs. I think he just charges them all. Even charging them all up at night and stuff. I don't know. How many chargers does he have? 150 packs. It sure beats Bardwell's 3 packs a day challenge, right? 3 packs a day. Kin's like, that's like not even warming up. That's not even close to warming up. I guess that's what you need to be. Or what you can do, not need to be, what you can be doing to be the fastest or one of the fastest pilots in the world. So what we got here, 20, around 20, 25, looks like 25 is our winner. 15, oh, at least 80, no lie. Wow. Chris Quad, 80 packs. That is pretty, now was that all in one sesh? Or like one day, or was that like kind of throughout the week? Because 80 in one spike, that's no joke. That's like a commitment. It's like going golfing all 36 holes. I'm retired, so I fly all day. Yeah, not a bad retirement. I wish. I think we all are thinking about that kind of stuff. Hopefully, not too far future. Just waiting for people to roll in. Got about 56 viewing. That's not too shabby. Not too shabby. So all week, yeah, that's got to be nice. So hey, I'm sure that makes a difference. 80 a week is it's a good rate. It's a good average. Before I get rolling in here, any questions out there? What is the best approach to dual gyros? Okay, so we got one. Claire FPV asks, Mark, how am I doing? I'm doing okay. We just got back from some vacation at the beach this last week, so that was fun with the kids. We always love boogie boarding and whatnot. So I have two boys, and they're like right in their prime for that kind of stuff. The oldest one does beat me sometimes at things, legitimately. So it's in another year, it's going to beat me a lot. So it was a good time. So yeah, I'm doing good. What is the best? He asked, what is the best approach for dual gyro FCs that has a flyaway with one PT, one filter at 300 hertz, but no flyaway with one biquad? So if you have a dual gyro filter, or a dual, so are you asking a dual gyro FC, a dual gyro FC? So if you have a dual gyro FC, what I would do is you can either log it with the debug mode. Here, let me see here. I got a flight control I can plug in here quick. One thing I did forget to bring over is see if my kids or wife is listening. And they'd be so kind. I forgot to bring a USB hub, so I'm gonna be like USB shuffling here. So if I open up Betaflight here, and let me just get this open, and then I can show you what I would do for any dual gyro FC out there, because I find the sensor fusion sometimes running them in both mode maybe is not the best way to go. So let's go chat desktop. Is that working? Yes. Is that still working full? Kinda. No, that's the hot mess up there, baby. So you guys are gonna have to deal with turning that off. We don't need any IV cam, and now you should just be seeing the monitor screen, so that should be okay. So yeah, so since I don't have dual monitors, you're gonna be able to see the hot mess. Now this is not a quad that has dual gyros, but if you do, in the configuration tab, and I'm sure you know this, but just for everybody on the chat, is you have a first, second, and both option here for any flight controller that has dual. So just under the configuration tab there. Now what you can do is, if you really, I guess without logging, go fly it just in first, and then go fly it just in second to see if your flyaways subside. Because it could be one, if one of the gyros is bad, you know, it's averaging, you know, it's taking the signal from one gyro and averaging it with the signal from the other gyro. So if, I see if I can turn myself on here. I don't have, no, I just have the, let's go back to here. So it's averaging the signal from both gyros, right? So you're taking one measurement, taking another measurement, and it's just taking the average of that, and that's what it's spitting to the PID controller. Well, if one of those gyros is bad, that's going to mess up both. It's not like you know, if you have if you have two numbers, one of them is bad, it's going to mess up your average. So it's better just to throw out the bad data than it is to sensor fusion that stuff. So try putting it to first, see if it doesn't have an issue. Try putting it second, see if it doesn't have an issue. If that goes away. The other thing you can do if you really want to mince it a little tighter, you know, we're not talking any logging there, but if you wanted to kind of mince it a little tighter, what you can do is also go down to black box and you can record a log dual. So you see this dual gyro scaled, that will measure the pitch and the roll axis on each. So you have 4 debug slots. You can't see my hands, but you have 4 debug slots. So this would be dual gyro scaled would be the one you want. Go back to here. Again, you have 4 debug slots. So what it will do is it will measure the pitch axis, the roll axis on, and it'll show you the raw data using those 4. So I think the gyro slot 1 and 2 is going to be gyro 1 pitch or roll and pitch, and slots 3 and 4 are going to be roll and pitch on gyro 2. And you can see which one does a little bit better noise wise if you wanted to kind of check that out to kind of thread the needle. So that's what I would do. Now if you don't have the issue with a biquad filter, but you do with a PT1, I mean that means that it's very high frequency stuff, right? So a PT1 filter is going to kind of attenuate the signal and a kind of slow roll off, but a biquad has a much steeper roll off or a much steeper attenuation curve. So you know when you're looking at this curve, people don't know, like this is a 1.0 on the curve, right? So the signal comes in, it sees a 1.0, whatever comes in goes out. If I do this, this is a half. So the signal comes in, it basically flattens it out. So if there's, you know, it's going up and down like this, it will make those oscillations go up and down about half as much if it's a 0.5 attenuation, and then that's what goes out. So that's what the curve is. So PT1 looks like this, a biquad looks like that. Now biquad has more delay. So if you're switching between a PT1 and a biquad, and I think you said flyaways with one PT1 filter at 300 Hertz, but no flyaways with one biquad. If they're both at 300 Hertz, that's telling me that the issue is high frequency oscillations, like way above, not way, but significantly above the cutoff of the filter that you have there. So hopefully that helps. Let me know if you have any follow-ups to that. But I would check do the first, try the second, see if those one, without screwing around with filtering. If neither is better, I would just, I guess, stick with the PT1. But it sounds like there's some sort of issue with the flight controller. Obviously, one option is just replace the flight controller. Yeah, cool. Sounds like that helped out. Any other BMI 250 spike again? Yeah, that's a good point. Hershey FPV says the BMI 270 spike. So the more and more flight controllers are using the Bosch gyros. I don't know of any that are using dual Bosch gyros, but there probably are. I just don't. They're just not coming to my mind. But those will generally have higher frequency oscillations, up at 700-800 Hertz, which is generally not bad. If you're going to have vibration things in a gyro if you're going to have gyros with two different characteristics, one is like, oh, it has a lot more vibrations down at like 100 to 200 Hertz, but this other gyro type made by another manufacturer has, better performance down at 100 to 200 Hertz, but more oscillation stuff up at like 800 or 900 Hertz. I would pick the one that has the oscillations up at 800, 900 Hertz every day, because those are easily filtered out. Where the stuff down at like 100, the low frequency stuff, the vibrations that are spaced apart a lot. That's what low frequency means. Like the spacing of the up and down in the signal is there's a bigger gap between the ups and the downs, where high frequency stuff means that the oscillations are really quick and they're really tight together. So I would rather have a gyro that has a tendency to have high frequency oscillations or pick up those vibrations more than a gyro that has low frequency oscillations or picks up those vibrations a little bit more. So it's not, and again, the Bosch gyros have a tendency to pick up the high frequency stuff a little bit more. There are some settings in Betaflight that you can also check out. I don't remember exactly what those are. Let me look here. Get gyro. There's a new setting in Betaflight. The alignment, flip. That Chris Rosser did a PR, added in. He did a whole video on it. That I'm not seeing it here. First, second, third, both. Maybe somebody can throw that out there. Slave. It's not jumping out at me. Get. Gosh, no, that doesn't work. Searching get gyro, and I'm not seeing. But there's a new setting in Betaflight that switches the Bosch internal filtering to take care of that high frequency stuff a little bit more for you, to make them a little bit more equivalent to software filter stuff that you'd be used to with like the InvenSense or TDK gyros, which is what almost all the boards use historically. Kind of switching now more and more that more boards are using Bosch gyros. I see option 1 and option 2, and I'm wondering if this is it. So there's I don't know if that's it though. Betaflight 4.3. Maybe you guys can help me out here on this one. Question whether your sound system. Yeah. If anybody can remember what the variable is that changes the low pass filter settings, hardware low pass filter settings, let me know in the chat. The only thing I'm coming up with is this, where you can see this is the variable, this gyro hardware low pass. It used to just say normal and experimental. Now it has option 1 and option 2. I think that these two options are specifically meant for like Bosch gyros to raise the internal low pass filter to be more like what you would get on a Brain FPV Radix flight controller. They don't make this tweak to do a little bit more hardware low pass filtering, and Betaflight added in just so things are a little bit more equivalent, regardless of what gyro you have. So like a TDK and a Bosch, their output is about the same. So we didn't have this big difference between the two. But in your specific case, the one that we were talking about here, you would not want to move that up anyways. You already have issues, so you want to leave it definitely at normal. All right. Another question. Simplified gyro filter, yeah. Emmett O'Brien asks, what are your thoughts about starting a PID tune with the Betaflight master multiplier versus D-gain slider? So my general recommendation is to just, let me swap back over to here. This is going to cycle. I should have did this first. But my recommendation is to, I would just find a preset that you like. There's lots of presets out there. And, say we'll just use mine, for example. Just load up the preset, say, I want to use dynamic idle, I want to use RPM filtering. I'm just going to use those two. I'm not using 48K ESC. I'm not gonna assume I have a super low noise quad or a low noise quad. I'm gonna go ahead and apply that. That should get you, I have presets out there for every quad class. So that should get you the bulk settings of what you should need for like a 5-inch or a 7-inch or a cine whoop or a cine lifter or a whoop or a 3-inch or a 2-inch or a 4-inch or whatever it is. That should get you these bulk settings, mostly like the balance between the two. And then after that, tuning to some extent should be just as simple as how far can you move this master multiplier slider up. If you fall within the bell curve and you don't have like bounce back issues with the preset, and you don't have any like throttle issues, you don't have any other weird issues, then it really just comes to prop wash is always it's almost impossible to get rid of completely. You can always turn a little bit harder. So it really comes down to just moving this master multiplier up. If I had my way, that master multiplier wouldn't be at the bottom. It would be at the top of the sliders. It would be master multiplier, damping, tracking, so on and so forth. But you know, it's not UAV tech flight. It's not Mark flight. It's Beta flight, and there's a whole group of collaborative folks putting it together. So that's how she is. So hey, at least it's in there. At least we have the sliders, right? Simplified gyro filter. Yep. Build X class. Oh, you have a. So Emmett O'Brien has a 1,000 millimeter X class 400 kV 12-inch step pitch prop. So for that, I would definitely, you're going to be checking out what I would recommend at least is the depends how big your motors are, but the Cine Lifter quad class. And now I'm assuming you are under motored. I gotta figure that out because depending on your motor size with X class and these, see for a Cine Lifter they're always under motored, right? You have such a huge weight on top with the camera and everything that they're always under motored. Even the 8X. So that tune is specified for that. So the PIDs are really high to try to somewhat, you're not really adding power, but you're adding the reactions faster, right? So if I'm weaker, like say me and you are going to push each other. If I'm weaker than you, one way that I can try to compensate for my weakness is if we're gonna push each other on 3, like 1, 2, 3, push. If I can be faster to start to push, I can gain a little bit on you, right? I'm not stronger than you, but I just because of my speed, if I jumped on it real quick, I can get you maybe a little bit, you see like arm wrestling there, whoever can get that first jerk. So that's kind of what higher PID gains does, right? It doesn't make your quad stronger because doesn't make the motor stronger, right? That's not physically possible. But it makes them react faster. So when a vibration comes in or a move, they'll react faster to spike that motor signal to basically do what that example is I just gave, where you can try to somewhat compensate. Now, if your X class has really decent motors and is not underpropped or underpowered, then those PIDs might be a little too high, but you just slide that master back down. So yeah, I just tuned a 10-inch that was that way. It had a 10-inch, no, I threw a GoPro on it, but big battery, just 10-inch, it wasn't X class, but the motors were 31, I can't remember, 3108, something like that. And it had messed up the owner. He had me send it to me for tuning then. Messed me up for a little bit too, because I was anticipating higher PID gains, but I had to actually have PID gains on it lower than like a 5-inch, like a race quad. Lower PID gains on that were lower than the gains on this because those motors were so powerful. So yeah, so it depends on your motor size. Grandodoro. Some presets for X4 Cine lifters like thick 8-inch. Yeah, the Cine Lifter. I would check out the Cine Lifter preset. That should be good for most Cine Lifters, especially if you're putting a big camera on it. It should be good. The thing I don't know about Emmett's X-Class is he, loading it up, or is it, does it have a huge amount of moment of inertia? Because if it does, regardless of the motors, like Cine Lifters, I don't care what motor size, it is going to be underpropped. They have a huge moment of inertia because that huge camera, it's like way up, the prop base is here, the camera's like way up here. Moment of inertia is massive on those things. So you just can't get big enough motors. And then the bigger the motors, the worse the moment of inertia gets. So it's kind of like a losing battle. So yeah, if you have anything that's lifting, like a hauling drone, that Cine Lifter preset that I have should be good for you. And I have to go through those too and mark them from experimental up to community. They all have to start as experimental, and then after they get some uses in them, we move them up. All up weight 9-inch for that work. RC Ritter FPV asked, all up weight 1750 grams, I'm assuming. Your 9-inch work for that? 1750. Yes. Yeah. The 1750 is pretty heavy. Again, unless you have like 3108 motors or something, you might. Again, if you have that issue, just move down the master slider. So like that 10-inch, I had to move. The D gains couldn't go above like 40, which is normally they're like at 80 for a 9 or 10-inch. So if you have issues, just move the master down. Yeah, it might be. Yeah. All right. Any other questions out there? If not, I can jump into. We're about half an hour into the stream. Can try to jump into this. See if I fail. These batteries, are they going to be going here at some point? Yeah, close enough. Let's go. All right. So again, have I learned anything new? Brandon Beans asks, has I learned anything? Anything grabbed my attention? No. Other than the news stuff, with all the Avatar, blah, 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 that stuff. But like in the quad performance world, just trying to be focusing in on getting presets squared away as much as I can, but thinking about that more and more. Tuning service, I don't know if you guys all caught, I did a video on doing tuning services again. I was always doing the you ship it to me, I tune it, but that's more expensive and whatnot. It's like if you really have an issue, or you just, some people just don't want to deal with it, so they just send it, which is, it's fine, it's great. But if you're looking like log review kind of stuff, check that out. You can go, I can self-promote here a little bit. But yeah, if you haven't seen that yet, if you go to UAV Tech, let's go to here. If you go to the uavtech.com. So if you're not aware, I have a website, fancy old website. And my YouTube clips, Patreon stuff, presets, tuning, like we try to get real basic with tuning here. So have a real general, your quad is controlled by what is known as the PID loop. As you're doing flips and rolls, you're changing the commands, and we try to keep it like from the ground up. There's something you can read on it. Sometimes people are better learners with reading. This video here is key to know, and then this is the backup that proves that this is true, which was a thing that I needed to do. I was the guy. It is what it is. I was the guy that was like, guys, the relationships between the PIDs are what matters. If you are going to move them, you have to move them all up and down in relation to each other. That's how we got onto the sliders. And some of the devs, not a lot, but some of the devs were like, no, I don't think so. So Brian White and I proved it out. Here's the proof that it all works. And then, here's some videos on it. But anyways, tuning services, if I go back to here. So tuning services here. I've been picking this back up. So $35 per log review. Try to give you a nice write-up of what I'm seeing. 3 or 4 things of what I'm seeing in your log. Then based on those things, to give you the advice of what I would change. A lot of people are coming from presets or just defaults, and we go from there to solve their issue or work on performance, and then try to leave it with, I don't just say, here, do this. I kind of walk you through, like, this is your log. I do screenshots, circle the stuff that I see, do a little, sentence or so on what I'm seeing, and then same thing for like what the settings should be, why the settings should be that way, what are they doing, and then, kind of leave it with, okay, and as you're doing this, I try to leave with some advice that's beyond just here's the settings, do these things. I say why, what the settings are doing, and then like if you want, like for example, the master multiplier, like hey, move the master slider to this. However, if you're continuing to play with it, just keep trying to slide that up until you hear like a fluttering sound, and then you can't move it up anymore. So you kind of get a little bit more advice that way. So anyways, been learning. You'd always learn more and more through doing this kind of stuff. So yeah, here's the second one. And then if you're a manufacturer, so hopefully, yeah, that's helpful. There's some fundamental stuff here, RC link stuff, some testing results on like all the RC links out there, did videos and all this kind of stuff. So all that data is out there, and like who's the fastest, all that kind of stuff. This is end-to-end, things like that. So if you haven't seen all this kind of stuff, check that out. It's all on the website. And then if you want to start to learn a little bit more about black box, this is a really basic video. Here you can get my presets for black box to download those, so you can follow along with the trace templates that I use, and almost a lot of people use them. I don't think they are, but it would be nice if they would just be built into black box, but I don't think they are. Of course, it would be nice from my perspective, but anyways, yeah, so learning stuff through that. I haven't picked up anything, groundbreaking. Back in the day, there was a lot going on as we kind of figured out filtering and things like that. I kind of started in this hobby, and we didn't know what filter delay was. We didn't understand the differences between biquad and all that kind of stuff. So I put together the Excel file that calculated out the phase delay and things like that you get with filters and attenuation, things like that. Looks like the stream is kicking here a little bit, but and then getting into tuning and working on the relationships between those two. With those two big fundamentals, it's like 90% of it, and it doesn't matter firmware. Those are just like fundamentals. So so Brian Bean asks again, dude, I love the help. Tune others people's drones because I get to learn about, same thing, get to learn about many of the different kinds of drones. It helps me see the trends, and answers, exactly. I'm definitely there with you, Brandon, because you get to see issues to help people fix that you don't necessarily have, and kind of, it's almost like keeping your ear to the rail, like what are people experiencing. Okay, so with all that, looks like some people dropped off here. I don't know if the thing is getting a little glitchy maybe. With all that, let's get into the tuning session. You guys still with me? Looks like it kind of dropped, but maybe it's picking back up. Current views. Keep the out to relax and see good response. Yeah, so Brandon asked, can we tune without iTerm relax? Yeah, if your quad is following the sticks really well. Okay, so thanks, guys. If your quad is following the sticks really well, you don't need iTerm relax. iTerm won't build up. Okay, so just maybe set it I mean, you can just turn it off, see how she goes. If you don't get any bounce back as I turn, then it just shows you your tracking sticks well. That hanging on, yeah, it's a little glitch. Looks like the speed's dropped off. And then O'Brien asks here, let me do this, set this to pause. That should help a little bit. And O'Brien asks, has the auto-tune feature in ArduPilot, is it credible? Do you think Betaflight devs will add this at some point? I don't think so. So ArduPilot, you know, the auto-tune relies on GPS a lot, as far as I'm aware. I've been tuning on ArduPilot, but not using the auto-tune feature. But I believe it uses GPS to kind of keep the quad stable, and it does the little glitches, which is normal. Like, I think CleanFlight even had an auto-tune at some point that did that. The thing where I think that falls short is, you know, these little twitches like this that it does are just not enough. It needs big twitches, and it depends on your rates. So it needs to do the twitches based on your rates. Because obviously if you have really slow rates, that's going to have an impact on how fast and slow it's trying to get the quad to rotate. So long story short, I think auto tunes will get you like 60% of the way there, but the remaining 40% you have to do manually. I don't think I've ever seen an auto tune yet that gets you all the way there. Okay, so it uses altitude hold. Drone 3 drone says it uses altitude hold, not GPS. So I guess it's using a baro or the altitude from the GPS. But again, I think it will help, but it doesn't get you all the way there. That's the unfortunate part about it. So okay, let's put this in the air. Let's talk about pitch and roll. So on this quad, I'm going to plug in here, and we're going to check out the settings on this. And go to here. So on this quad that I have, you can see my settings here, and you can see it's kind of grayed out. And I don't want to mess with it too much, but hopefully you can see that. There's a 40 and a 45 for the D terms, which is really the controlling term, because then you just put that whole DPI in that direction. So derivative, proportional, integral, the connection between these terms, the relationship between the terms is D, then P, then I. So the D is the controller. So that's why we're looking at these gains. So you can see in here, this is 40 and 45. Well, why can't that be 40 and 50? Why can't that be 40 and 60? How do we know its pitch is higher than roll? Like, what are we talking about here? So what I'm going to do is, let's see if we have some stuff on it. So I have some black box on this. So let's go ahead and let's check that out. And it's pretty straightforward, but nevertheless, so let's look at this one. Maybe this looks like a half decent length log, and this was probably, I don't know when this is from actually. So it could be from the live stream, or I've flown since then, but usually I turn off logging. So last flight on this, or second to last flight that I logged at least on this one. Let's open that puppy up. And what we're going to do is we're going to listen for flutters. So I can't open this right now, but if I go into experimental mode here, or just click this, now I can't. This doesn't have value since it's not really connected to a flight controller. But down here in the master, you can keep moving this up until you hear a fluttery sound. Well, that's coming from either your pitch or your roll axis, not both. So you can see it here too if I go into a black box. If you're familiar with black box, if I go to trace template 4, and I can see this this pitch axis and the roll axis here, these yellow lines. See that there and there. And you can see they're pretty smooth. I mean, I got some oscillation stuff, you know, some vibrations getting through here. This quad's not perfect. But I don't see any like persistent when I'm doing forward flight here in this section. I don't see any real difference between this yellow line and this yellow line when I'm again on trace template 4, which is stick tracking. I don't see any difference. And again, these are our UAV Tech trace templates that you can download from the website under that black box page. So these look the same. So what we're going to do is plug this back in, and then connect to it here. And I'm going to intentionally kind of mess this up. So first thing I want to do before I forget is, this tab is locking up on me. There we go. What I want to intentionally do is erase flash here before I forget. Let's do that. Flip back over to here. So what I want to do is I'm going to move up the master slider. Right now it's near its limit, right as it stands. So I'm going to move that up. I'll have to see. It's erasing the flash right now, so I'm stalling. And so I'll slide that up until we start to hear like a fluttering sound. Now, you are probably not going to hear the sound very well because I don't have, like DJI doesn't do the audio, right? But I'll do it right out in front of me here. And, you know, hopefully you can hear it. We'll see. We'll see what goes. I'll turn off my crisp noise canceling thing. All right, so bouncing back over here, I got my cleared flash. I'm going to change this. I must have been doing RPM data, which is fine. No, that's fine. I'll just leave it. RPM data is fine. So go back into tuning. So I'm kind of near my limit. What I'm going to do is I'm going to move this up. I'm going to take this up. I'm pretty sure at 1.5, if I get above 50, this will start to have a fluttering sound. So let me do that. And actually, let's have a little. Let's move it up a little bit more. Let's do this. Turn off my crisp noise canceling. All right, so now I got like 54, 57 on that. And let's go back to here. And I don't need to get under the goggles and all this jazz. You guys can just watch it.
HTX. Switch warning.
We'll do a little line of sight.
Engines disarmed. Acro mode.
So, alright. Alright, you guys all with me here? Brandy, yes, I'd like to tune. Yep, okay, cool. Don't fly into my face, don't fly into my face. Alright, so you can see where I'm at over at the I'm just going to push this out, right out here. And let's just do a little line of sight on this. Alrighty. So hopefully you'll be able to hear this. Hopefully this works out.
Engines armed. Engines disarmed.
Oh, I gotta put it on Express LRS.
Engines disarmed. Acro mode. Locked on. Roll. Engines armed. Engines disarmed.
Come on, buddy. What are we doing here?
Engines armed. Engines
You suck. It's not connected. Why aren't you connected? Express LRS, Express LRS. I'm on the right model. It's always good times, crossfires. Right protocol. Oh, you know what? It could have been a while. Yeah. Good thing I came in here. It's starting to rain. Why does it always rain when I do a live stream?
Engines on.
I don't hear a flutter. My rates are not set. Tell that. So let's bring that in. So no flutter there yet. So what we're going to do, plug back in.
Telemetry lost.
And move it up. I thought I was above. I thought I was closer than that on, I can't believe it's raining again. Unbelievable. It's supposed to be a, like, 8% chance of rain or something. I know it's cloudy, but dang. So I'm going to bring that up a little bit more and see if I can get it there. And just kind of keep sliding that up. Now let's look over here. As you're moving the D-term stuff up, I gotta go close my car windows. As you're moving the master slider up, sometimes you need to be cognizant of your PIDs here and maybe move those down. So in that scenario, I might need to just move this down just ever so slightly. So it went from 1.5 to 1.3 because as I'm moving the gains up, obviously it's going to amplify noise. Now, what's odd about this is that if you, one way to make your quad flutter to get to your kind of like your D max is to move up the D gains, right? And you can do that with the master because then it brings up the rest of the terms with it so you're not messing up the ratios and the balances between everything else. So moving up the master, move up D gains. Another way to make it get to a flutter point is to actually move the filters sliders down. So as you move these down, it will lower the point where it will start to flutter. So I kind of did both. I moved it up and moved it down. Let me close my car windows here. So, anyways, so let's see what that gives us now. So we have that logged. I'll save here, and we have that there. I'll thrust linear on, I guess. Going. And yeah, my rates are definitely not set. That's why. That's ridiculous. Here's a good way to set the rates. Review tech. Rates. Hey. Pick. Set. Alright, so that should set my rates in, hopefully here. Alright, so now feel a little bit more comfortable there. Check that again, all good there. Let's get her up. Alright, so going back to here. Let's throw her back out there. Risk it a little bit. Not raining that hard.
Telemetry recovered.
All right.
Engines on.
Twitchy, getting twitchy. I don't hear that flutter though. All right, well, we can keep moving it up. Should have broke the other quad.
Telemetry lost.
The not sure what I have set on those motors. All right, so in here, again, can just keep moving this up. Screw it, we're going to go all the way up. And then we're going to move this down a little bit more filtering as we're bringing that up. And Shisha should be good there. Now let's see. Okay, cool. So let's do that. Let's then look over here. See if we have any other questions. Hey buddy, could you give us, so does the FPV, blah, 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 horizon. Yeah, let's go back to the top. Okay, so Rank9 asks, is this in horizon mode? If so, doesn't that have a different PIDs? So this is not in horizon mode. This is just, you know, line of sight in angle mode, or rate mode, I'm sorry, not angle mode. So no horizon mode, no angle mode. You are correct though, it has different PIDs. So when you're in horizon mode and you're in auto, like just level-ish, you know, less than that spot where it breaks to actually do the flip or roll, you are not using the PID gains. You are using, well, you're using the PID gains. You are using the accelerometer and snapping back. It's still using the PIDs to have the controller follow the set point, but it's using another PID controller on top of that it's basically like a P controller. It doesn't have the other two terms. When you flip, when you're in the flip in horizon mode, you are in rate mode or angle, or acro mode. And so there it just turns off that, and then you're just using the same. So you're always using that same PID controller for, you know, the commands to what the quad is doing. It's still using the same PIDs and PID controller in angle mode, or in horizon, or in acro mode. UAV Tech, hey buddy, so Diz FPV asks, could you give us a detailed explanation of the Pidsum limit and why is this set to 1,000? Can't find much on it. So quickly, and then I'll go back out here on this. So the Pidsum limit is set, I think, to 500, which you rarely, like this quad, this 5-inch, the Pidsums won't get to 500. Like if you sum up the gains, they won't get to 500. So just the default Pidsum limit of 500 is fine for this quad. Now, setting that Pidsum limit, like if it's battling prop wash hard, or now that I've moved the gains up really far, like the gains are moved up pretty far right now you might get to the Pidsum limit. So in that case, yeah, you might want to move that Pidsum limit up to 1,000. Most of my presets, I just move the Pidsum limit up to 1,000, just so it's out of the way. So it's not this, you know, artificial limitation. I think I don't know why the default is, we kind of asked around the dev channel a couple years ago, like, wonder why it's that was set to 500 like in 2013, or it's been like that for a long time. And it's a safety thing. I don't know that it provides that much safety though, but it's less I mean, iTerm has a limit, and then the Pidsum has a limit. I don't think it provides that much safety personally. The iTerm limit does, because that has a 40 or 400, I think 40% or 400 limit. So that doesn't let that get crazy wound up. But yeah, so I mean, it just, at the end of the day, when you're looking at like a log file here, I can flip back over, go to here. When you're looking, I mean, the Pidsum is literally sums these up. So if I add this, and I go PIDS, add PIDS right here, like a graph down at the bottom. Right, this is my Pidsum. Here I just add it to the bottom. See, it says Pidsum. So the 0.7, see, I don't think a lot of people kind of take this in maybe sometimes, so this might be something good. So if I look at the pitch axis, so let's narrow this down because I got a lot going on here. Sometimes less is more, less is more. Let's turn off pitch roll, let's turn off, so we just got pitch, we got pitch Pidsum. So if I look at this right here, this is literally, this 0.5% is literally 0.1 plus or minus 0.8, because you're plussing a negative, plus 0, plus 0.2. So 0.1 minus 0.8 plus 0.2 is going to give you a 0.5. That's when they say Pidsum, it's P, I, and D plus V forward add up to be the Pidsum. This Pidsum is per axis, right? So we have a Pidsum that is the, like, that's the command. So if I added this again and take this out. So we got a Pidsum that's doing that for roll, we do one for pitch, and we do one for yaw, right? And that sum, you know, we have the roll Pidsum, pitch Pidsum, the yaw Pidsum. That's what the flight control, that's the PID loop, that's what it's doing. It's making that Pidsum. You can see how it adds the stuff up in the different terms. So that's why as you move the gains, you're going to add more of the 0.1 versus the other. You know, it's going to change their. They always are just adding up, but it's just basically how it's hard to explain. It's how high that value will be. So if I increase my P term, instead of that being, and I do the exact same thing, exact same move, which is like almost impossible. But if I would do the exact same move, instead of 0.1 for the P term, maybe that's a 0.2. Like if I double the P term, that would be a 0.2. Well, that's going to influence the Pidsum, because now it's more P heavy than the other term. So that's how that occurs. Ultimately, if I scrub through this log, and you can do the same thing for you since you're asking about Pidsum, you know, in this log, have these ever got up to 5 or 50? I'm sorry, 50%. So if you look here, like this one, it's getting up to 19. It's getting down to, like, you can basically zoom all the way out, and you can kind of look through your entire log. It's like, what are the biggest items here? So, like, do a full-on rip, right, to see if Pidsum actually matters. See if I can find a spot. See if I can get on this one. It's hard to. It looks like this one's about the biggest one. Slow down right there. And we can see, oh, so 56. So in this scenario, I lied to you. In this scenario, this got above the Pidsum limit, the default. This went to 56.8. If you would have not increased the Pidsum to 1,000, which would be 100%, then this would get capped at, instead of 56.8 being the command, it would have been 50 is the highest it would allow it to go. Now that that percent that it's given, the 56 point whatever, that goes to the mixer, right? And the mixer is what he says, okay, that's yaw. So 56 point whatever 8% yaw movement. Then it has to, the mixer figures out which motors needs to, so that means that these, depends which way it yaw, but it means that these need to spin up versus the other two more, and it's going to be 56% of the movement, the other two axes is the other. So that's how in your the magnitude of all the gains on an axis, like the pitch versus the roll versus the yaw, can control how much the quad respects that specific axis. So when people are getting like cross-axis bobble, like this happens in other firmwares more than Betaflight, but sometimes in other firmwares more than Betaflight, when you do a pitch move, you might get a bobble on the roll axis, like a little shake when it goes to stop. You get like a, you can like hardly see it. It will like stop. This will stop, but you'll see like a little, like the roll will bobble a little bit. Well, that's because it's prioritizing the pitch axis more than the roll axis. If you wanted to stop that, you could increase all the gains on the roll axis so that this hard stop, the roll axis has a little bit more authority for those different Pidsums, because you have a Pidsum for the roll, the pitch, and the yaw. Those all go to the mixers. So anyways, so hopefully that helps understand like how you go from the P, I, and D feed forward terms to Pidsums, and then how those Pidsums go into the mixer, and then it figures out which motor is going to spin and how you can control which axis gets higher priority in the Pidsum. So yeah, so that's that. That hopefully answer your question. And then the next thing I need to do here is take it out. It stopped raining, so let's do this. I'll come back. Yeah, make sure, Hershey FPV says make sure you have a clean build. That's in general. Don't have a crappy build. All right, let's okay, let's turn this back on.
Welcome to
Move this out.
Throttle warning. Engines disarmed. Acro mode. Loading on.
Let's do that. Let's do this. And let's do a little, hopefully this flutters. Come on now.
Engines on. Engine
Oh, fluttered. So, did you hear that flutter? That is the big time flutter. That's called the flutter flyaway flutter. So that is where you get, you can hear it. You heard the, it's like it's It's like it's nervous, right? It's like a nervous chihuahua. And that fluttered so much that I had to disarm. So here's how we figure out. So here's the case in point. This is where black box is king. I have no friggin' idea without black box. Was that the roll axis making it fly away, or was that the pitch axis making it fly away? I was concerned about not having it fly away and hit my car. So I wasn't, you're not gonna be able to see it either. You're not gonna be able to see it. So at the end of the day, that's your flutter. You wanna stand back. You can see I was, as you're doing this, you don't wanna be, don't arm it looking over top of the quad. Don't be stupid. And let's see what the master black box can show us here. So we go into black box. We're going to turn on this and pray that log 3, yeah, that should be the one, caught what we needed to catch. And then we are going to turn on trace setup 4. And we had, oh look, we had pretty good balance, honestly, between the two. So, looking at this log, and let me, so I have the log open already so I can do this. Of course it's starting to rain again, but we're good. I can open up this at the same time and put this aside of it. So let's zoom in here a little bit. So we're looking right here. So let's go to here. And you can see, so now, let me make sure I got everything 5x5 here. Yep, that should be all good. No, I don't want to show this. So you should see here that we have 60 and 68 for the D term. And you can see the balance between the two. That's actually, I could go a little bit higher on the pitch axis. You can see that roll started to do the flutter. That's what actually started to kind of kick in the flutter. Not, you can see it's just a little bit more pronounced on roll. So this is up here, it's the roll. Again, we're on trace template, you know, stick tracking here. It's 4, or just hit 4 on the row of keys on the keyboard. And you can download these trace templates on my website again. Make sure everybody's walked through. You can download these on my website. Go to the black box page. It's linked on the main page down at the bottom. You can download this for the latest black box thing. You just right click on this, hit save as, and then when you in black box, you can just hit file, open, and then open that workspace. I wish there was there's an export workspace button, but there's no import workspace. Everything is one open dialog. Like you hit open for the log, open if you want to do a video underlay, or open if you want to import a workspace. It says it right here. Open any of the log file, video file, exported workspace. You just got to read the help tips. But it's not intuitive. It took me a while to figure that out. So anyways, you hit open and then that will load the trace templates. And then you can click on this, you have this exact screen set up. And you can see how easy it is to, like I don't even download the log off the flight controller. I just connect, hit this button, takes you where the flash is, you double click the log file, it opens, you look at it. I don't save it to my computer or anything, I just look at it here. You can actually unplug the quad, plug it back in, then connect to the flight controller. This just stays kind of loaded in the computer's memory. So anyways, back to this. You can see there's a decent balance between the two axes here. At this point they kind of started to flutter all at the same time. But you can see how pitch is a little bit more persistent. So in that case, what we can do is, obviously we need to bring this down, as in kind of shows us where our limit is. And you can see that what I could do here is just get a little bit, I could actually probably bring this up. So if I want to bring up my axis, my pitch axis a little bit more, I could probably bring these two sliders up at the same time. So it's not perfect between these two. So if you move up your, you know, with the latest sliders in Betaflight, you have these pitch axis sliders. It's like the pitch damping and the pitch tracking. If you move those up at the same time, that keeps the ratio between the terms close enough. It's not exactly the same. It's not exactly how I would have done it if it was UAV tech flight. It wouldn't be exactly like this. But this is good enough. So if you just move those sliders, you just want to make your pitch axis a little bit higher or lower in gains in general. Move those two sliders, these two sliders right here, just move them together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move. You can see now I'm getting 50 and 60 on that versus, you know, it's just a little bit, like I said, just I could have a little bit more pitch authority here to be equivalent to when the D-term oscillation started for the roll axis. You can see roll kind of jumped on it first, which makes sense. When you when you're thinking about this like logically, and this is another thing that bothers me. Here's Brandon, here's something I've recently, within the last year, learned. We say power to weight ratio. It has nothing to do with power to weight. I can make this thing thousands of grams and have the same PIDs. It's not the weight. As long as those thousands of grams are right at the center of gravity. If I move any of the grams farther away, that's where it's going to make the difference in the PIDs. The PIDs are not trying to make you go forward or go straight up. They have nothing to do with punch outs or hovers or drops. The PIDs are all about getting this thing to rotate and not rotate. That's it. And how does it do that? How fast does it start to rotate? How slow? Does it bounce back? And all that kind of stuff. It's all about rotation. So it's not power to weight, it's power to moment of inertia. And moment of inertia is everything. So why does roll, why in this example here, my pitch axis PIDs can be about 10 points in the D term, 10 points higher than my roll axis. Well, there's more moment of inertia on the pitch axis than on the roll axis, and you can just take your quad and feel it. Like especially on like a 10-inch, just twist it in your hands. You can be like, yep, if I do this, it's harder to start and stop, with my wrist, the quad, than it is if I do the same thing like this. It's much easier on the roll axis. So that's going to be the axis that flutters a little bit more, a little bit faster. And that's why you can have, or that's why, for peak flight performance, your pitch gains can be a little higher than your roll gains. Now, if you have a quad that is very symmetrical, and you can just, again, you don't even need to fly these things. If you have a quad that's, again, very symmetrical and like a racing quad, a lot of times the racing quads are pretty symmetrical because they don't have like GoPro, especially, I don't even have a GoPro on this. Put a GoPro on this, big time difference between the roll and the pitch. But if they're more symmetrical, then these would be more the same, 50 and 50. And then the reason I'm only talking about D term again is because the other terms follow. So if I, again, go back to this, if I go back to here, understanding this, relationship, D, P, I, what controls what. Your D term controls how high your P term will need to be. The magnitude of your P term will control how high, and the magnitude of your I term will need to be. So, when we're looking at this, that's why we're just focusing on the D term here for PID magnitude, because these other terms are all, I already have this stuff in balance. This thing flies good, it doesn't have any bounce back, I don't have any weird I term problems. It's all good. All that stuff's good. Flies good. I'm just trying to get to my maximum PID values per axis. It's not just, I'm trying to do it for roll and for pitch. So I figured out through this little process here and looking at this log how I could increase the PIDs just a touch bit more on the P axis. Now this is really, really close. Many, many times you will see oscillations on your roll axis and not on your pitch at all. So I don't even have a GoPro on this. This is just, it has a DJI air unit on it. And you can see how these oscillations, why did it fly away? Because as this is making its oscillations, this is the motor outputs. They were up near 100% enough that, they were 100%, then they dropped down to 0, 100% dropped down to 0, but there was more thrust up than gravity was pushing down, so it just kept climbing and climbing and climbing. So once you get to the spot where it starts to hit 100%, she's going to start, as they say, flying to the moon. So that's where you get. So anyways, did that, brought that down. Let's hit save. I'm going to go back over here, and a part of this is I'm going to actually leave this because I brought these down quite a bit. You can hear this quad twitches and stuff. The gyro, I got to get a new flight controller for this quad. The gyro is not. The gyro, I think, is failing on the one axis. But I think we're good there. Let's see how this goes. So let's go back here. Let's go back to this one. See if there's any questions. It is starting to rain again. Tuning by oscillations. That's right. Don't stand over it. Yes. So moving up the master or the damping sliders, as Hershey FPV says, D term is what will cause the flutters and flyaways. That term alone. And I've been in so much trouble. If you can't, so Jose Diaz is saying, man, I have so much trouble tuning my quad. I need to learn black box. I can't get rid of wobbles. Jose, it's pretty straightforward. Move the, you'll be, don't need to learn black box. Let me show you. If you have wobbles, move down the drift wobble slider. As you move this slider this way, you will tend to see to have more wobble. Make sure I'm on the right thing. Yep. If you move the slider this way, you will tend to have more drift. So, like, means like when you get off the throttle, like you do a punch out, you jump off the throttle, it might like drift around a little bit on you, feel kind of loose. Again, if you move it up this way, you're not going to have any drift, but it might start to wobble on you. The other thing to do, so I would move this down. If you have a bigger, it sounds like you have a bigger quad. If you're getting wobbles, there's a couple things to do. First thing I would do is make sure you're running 24 kilohertz ESC PWM frequency. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it's the default for all ESCs except for F3 ESCs. So you should be okay. 24 kilohertz would be the first thing I would do. The next thing, if it's just, if it's, I don't know if you're calling wobble bounce back, but if it's a bounce back thing, maybe move this cutoff to 5 for the I-term relax. That will get rid of any I-term bounce back. And if it's a slow wobble, if slow wobble is too much I-term, if you lose yaw authority, you need more I-term. Yep. And if it's just like kind of wobbly, a lot of things what I do is just move this drift wobble down to 0.5. That helps with like 6-inch, 7-inch, 8-inch quads, bigger quads. So Hershey FPV sounds like he's well acquainted with big quads. I believe he had the X class, if I remember correctly. So big quads, you have wobbling issues. And what is the core issue with wobble is your motors are underpowered. If you get more powerful motors, your wobble issues will go away. So we're compensating for that with moving down the I-term. But that's the actual, the root of the issue is you need more powerful motors. Now, if you already have like big motors, like 28, you know, if you have like a 7-inch and you have like 28, I think that 10-inch I had was 3115 motors, Hershey FPV, or somebody was asking. 3115. They were huge motors. I mean, 3115 millimeters high, big motors. That was not underpowered for a 10-inch. But these, like even 28, like even 2807 for a 7-inch or 8-inch, those can be too small. Sometimes you need to go up to 31 something, 3105, 3107, you know, whatever you can find. There's not a lot of options, honestly. And, you know, don't hesitate. You don't have to spend money. Just move the slider down. See if that works. But recognize that the core of the issue is the underpowered motors. All right. Back to this. So, all right. Still raining off and on. But I have this. Let me make sure this is saved. is saved. Oh, I changed that I term. I don't want to change the I term. Save, save, save. Jose Diaz says it's a 5-inch, and I'm seeing wobbles when going straight at 0 throttle. What are the is it wobbles or shakes? Like shakes is like quick, like it's kind of like shaking around. But wobbles are like it's like you're on a road rider and you're just bouncing. That's kind of the wobble. So a lot of quads have, if you have shakes, then most of the time that's props. Like you just need to try different props. Yep, up and down. So if it's kind of like up and down and it's slow, then definitely that drift wobble thing. If it's not the shakes, if it's shaky, if it's kind of fast and it's just kind of like windy, you know, the windy. Just go fly on a super windy day, and you'll understand what shake. Just to differentiate between shakes and wobbles. On a windy day, no matter what quad you have, it will shake like on 20 mile an hour, 30 mile an hour winds, and you'll get like shakes and it will bluster around and things like that. That shakes. On a smooth day with no wind, if you get that, just change your props. Go to different, I don't care what props. It's like, oh, it came with these props. I don't know, whatever. Get different props. Just try all the time. Props are cheap. Just try different types of props. So, but if it's not that, it's not shakes, if it's kind of slow and wobbly, then yeah, move that drift wobble slider down. The other thing is move your PIDs up. Like move the master up. Just be careful. We showed you what can happen if you go too high. Don't arm looking over top of it. It's bad. That's bad. Don't do that. But move your master up and maybe move that I term down. That should start to take care of your wobble issue. Okie doke. So let's see what I got here. I'm gonna move. Yeah, move it at 1. All right, let's disconnect this.
Welcome to HTX.
We're going to welcome everybody to HTX. We're going to go back out front. We're going to do this again.
Engines on.
There we go. So there were no fluttering, no flyaways. All right. So let's look at what that looks like. Again, just pop on right into here. Get my logging, hit this button down at the bottom. Flops up a thing. Number 4 is going to be my next one. This was 3. Let's look at 4. You can see about the same. Kind of out of the oscillation-y zone. Get a little bit, there's still a little bit highest here. This is, see this here? Where this is starting to oscillate a little bit, right here? It's when I'm moving the throttle. See that? Moving the throttle. It's either I'm moving the throttle up or down. Here I'm moving it up, starts, and down, can even be down. So that's a sign that the anti-gravity, now that I move the PIDs up, see this right here, I got this I move these PIDs way up, this anti-gravity gain, it's probably a little high now. Let's take that down to 4. Freaking kids. So we'll take that down to a 4 to kind of compensate. So these went way up. I'll bring this down a little bit. And that just might have been, I think these two are supposed to be disconnected, but that could have just been maybe a little bit high, but keep that in mind. Through here it seems okay. Yeah. Now let's take a look at this one. Come on now. Check out that tracking. That's what we call locked, buddy. Not kiss locked. Ooh, he didn't say that, did he? Not flight 1 locked. It's enough to go around. I'll give people enough. This is that beta flight locked, where it's actually following the stuff. Right on it. That's what I'm talking about. You can see here, it's actually my feed forward is high enough, and this is kind of how you know you have feed forward tuned in pretty well. See how feed forward on when I'm doing this roll move here? Feed forward's doing so much of the push that my P term hardly grows. That's how you know you have feed forward. And obviously the other part is that my quad in the mid-roll, as it's starting to accelerate into the roll, it's actually rotating a little bit faster than my command. So my snap moves are ultra snappy for sure. But it's right on my rates. And that's what we like to see. Yeah, here you can really see it. So feed forward could be a little bit less. Yeah, my feed forward's a little high. Because actually, it's the opposite. My P term's actually pushing back. Like, since my gyro is going faster than my rates, my P term's actually slowing the rotation down because feed forward's so high. So I could probably bring this stick response down a little bit. Maybe bring it down to there. So I mean, that's just a feel thing too. You can just you get used to it. You know, that's just a little tweak. But any questions on any of that? So yeah, it's getting a little dark. It's getting a little like a little halo. I need a little. No, gotta like block that out. Just do like a little. Yeah, feed forward is good. Up and down sounds decent. Still flutters. Yeah, there wasn't that much. That little bit of fluttering, I think, was Brandon that anti-gravity. So if you're seeing flutter or whatnot, and it's associated to when you're moving the throttle up fast or moving the throttle down fast, then that's going to be just take a look. Don't forget about anti-gravity. Let me try something here. Is this better? Yeah, kind of. Not really. But yeah, it's getting a little darkish. I knew that was going to happen. So let's see here. There we go. A little midnight tuning sesh here. Not midnight, but evening. We're past golden hour, boys. There's no golden hour tonight. It's too cloudy. Come on! There we go. Oh my gosh, you gotta kidding me. Ciati, I don't want to listen to your stream right now. Alright. It's 5 inch. So Scott asks, what should my PWM be on BL Heli 32? So I would set your PWM to either 24 kilohertz or 16 kilohertz for the low, if you're on the latest versions of BL Heli or BL Heli 32. I mean, you can pick whatever you want. They're all compromises. So just let's talk about the differences. So 48 kilohertz PWM frequency for the low, or just the general setting for just a one-off, is going to sound so nice and smooth when you arm the quad. It's going to be like, oh, I like it. And that's why it started to pick up popularity, because it sounds so smooth when you arm the quad. The other thing that's good about 48K PWM is it produces lower back EMF electrical noise. So like if you have lines in the analog video or electrical noise issues, 48K PWM will be less of that. So it will help with that. It's not like the golden fix or anything like that, but it will help with it. And turn the noise canceling on a little bit there. So that's the good things about 48K PWM. The bad thing about 48K PWM is that it reduces the motor's braking power. So the motors get commands to speed up, as you see in those motor traces, and slow down. Well, they're not going to be able to slow down as fast with 48. 24 and 16, they can slow down faster. So they can perform better. Their braking torque is better. But you get higher electrical noise, which it's not really that much different. And you shouldn't have electrical noise issues to begin with. But there will be a little bit higher electrical noise. And usually you have a cap that takes care, a capacitor that takes care of that. The downsides, so long story short, choose what you want, because some people just want the smoothness. But for better control in wind, for better flight performance, you want a lower PWM frequency, 16 or 24. Now, in the latest versions of BL Heli Configurator, you can set a PWM low and a PWM high. And the best advice people are saying is, Chris Rosser did a bunch of tests. That's the low, set it to 16 or 24, and set the high to by RPM. That all said, what that does is it ramps your PWM frequency up as your throttle goes up. That all said, most quads don't experience the aliasing they're talking about with the commutations in the PWM without getting too into it. So I've never had a quad that had aliasing commutation issues with that. So a lot of times I just set them the same. But based on Rosser's tests, he recommended 16 or 24 at low and by RPM at high. What I would say is just set them both to 24 or 16. See how that goes, high and low. And then set the high to by RPM and see how that goes. And pick which one you like. If you want just smoother, if you want just smoother motors, then set everything to 48K. But you're going to lose flight performance. You son of a gun! Come on now. So you got to kind of pick what you want there. Yeah, Brandon, it did get dark fast because, well, I turned the lights off behind me. But it's cloudy tonight, so, which it's not been. I live in Northeast United States and Northeast Pennsylvania. We haven't had rain in we've had rain, but not meaningful rainy days. There goes a fox. No shit. A red fox just ran past. We haven't had meaningful cloudy or rainy days in 2 months. It's been awesome. So today's a little cloudy. It's fine. So what was Scott's question? Yeah, so 7-inch. Scott, for a 7-inch, definitely low PWM frequencies. If you have 48, you're gonna have wobble issues. You're gonna have all kinds of flight performance. I think on a 5-inch or lower, got some options. You got some choices. See what you like. They're usually the power to moment of inertia. is high enough that you can sacrifice a little low end braking torque, but for bigger quads, I would never go 48 um, if I can choose. Yeah. What does the by RPM setting have to do with by RPM? So as you saw the answer, but the Jose, you saw the answer that when you increase throttle, it moves the PWM frequency up, which decreases the braking torque. So as you're moving up throttle, your braking torque's getting less. And I offer that if it ain't broke, don't fix it. If you don't have commutation, aliasing, vibration-y problems, then don't use by RPM, because you're again sacrificing low-end braking torque for a problem that you don't have. It's like, well, I could have. Okay, you could, but do you? Do you have, if your quad flies smooth and you don't have any like what they call MTOs, mid-throttle oscillations, which just because you have mid-throttle oscillations does not mean it's a commutation. I've never seen mid-throttle oscillations fixed by changing the PWM frequency. I've never. Now, maybe other people have. Chime in if you have. But I've never seen like, oh, I got MTOs. Oh, change your PWM for. Oh my gosh, it fixed everything. It's like, it's usually, I got MTOs. Go change your PWM frequency. Yeah, it's still the same. I still have the problem, and then they never change it back, or they move on to the next thing. So MTOs, mid-throttle oscillations, that is frame resonance or bad props. And a lot of times it's frame resonance. These frames seem to amplify prop vibrations around 250 hertz, 250 hertz frequency, and that's right about mid-throttle. So it's usually just a bad frame resonance thing. And with filters, do you guys ever notice that like about 2 to 3 years ago, MTOs used to be like, everybody was talking about MTOs. Mid-throttle oscillations, mid-throttle oscillations. I haven't heard anybody complain about mid-throttle oscillations in like 2 years. It's because Betaflight's filtering is so heavily notch filter based now that they just jump right on that mid-throttle oscillation, that frame resonance point, and just crush it. Because notch filters are the bomb. Because that's what they do. They eat vibrations for breakfast. Yeah, looking at Beal Holder right now. What about, Hurricane, I'm not even going to work on the last name. What about small but heavy quads? Is it still better to have lower than 48 kilohertz? Yes. Yes, it's always better to go lower, unless you have other issues. Like if you have, so the only reason I would go to higher PWM frequency is if I had electrical noise, like a lot of lines in the analog feed, which if you fly DJI, or digital, that's not a thing anymore. But if you had electrical noise, you want to try to solve that or make it better. Again, usually doesn't solve it, but you could try it. If you wanted the motors to sound smoother when you arm them, then I would do 48K PWM. What else? If I had, I can't lie, if I had vibration issues or jello or MTO, I would try putting it at 48 kilohertz. But every time I've done that, and every time I've advised other people to do that, it's never fixed anything. So I would still try it, but I wouldn't keep your hopes up. It's usually props. Like if it's shakes, like I talked about. Oh man, it's getting dark, isn't it? I can tell you. Just put the light up below me. But we said we're going till 9 o'clock, so I have another 20 minutes. If you have a quad that shakes and has like shakes and jitters and stuff, like when it's not windy, it's still shaking, that is typically just props. You just need to get some gen fans, get some HQs, usually HQ, definitely get some HQs, but get some gen fans, get some Azure, get some Get some Mr. Steel watermelons, whatever melons, whatever colors he's got going. Get some of those. Just props are cheap. Just get a whole bunch of props and start throwing them on there. And that should generally fix your shaky issues. If you have jello, like the camera feed, you see that like wavy jello thing? That's typically not props. That's typically a motor. Like a motor bell's out of balance, the bearings are bad, sometimes that screw in the bottom's loose. It's not snug. It's snug, but it's not snug enough. Like you can move the bell up and down just a little bit. Like if you can push the bell up and down just a skosh, that's usually going to cause, that wavy jello business going on. Hershey S, I noticed. ESC. So Hershey FPV says he's noticed the RPM filtering can cause EMF on cameras. Really? I'm trying to think of what would be the root of that. I guess just the communication. I'll have to keep that in mind next time I still have this 10-inch I gotta send back tomorrow. I have to, everything flies good on it, except it has a lot of electrical noise. And I had the guy, he has 4 individual ESCs with a capacitor on each ESC, and it still has electrical, you can still see the lines, only when I punch it. But I'll try that. I'll turn off the RPM filter, see if it makes a difference. That's interesting. So I guess just to answer that question, I would go with yeah, I don't know, Hershey. Hershey says 48K is great for under-propped builds like a Cine. I guess. Yeah, if you're going for smooth stuff, but then they just get into, then you start to get into wobble issues. And like, there's nothing wrong. I'm not like trying to paint 48K as evil, but it causes wobbles. That lower braking torque has consequences. Worse prop wash performance. More tendency on larger quads to wobble. So if you don't have those problems or don't care about those things, then it is a little smoother. So it's your quad, of course. Do what the heck you want with it, but just know what the trade-offs are. So Brandon says, I'll get the most power and response from lower PWM, but I can make the noise floor higher overall. So lower power to weight or moment of inertia will benefit from lower if higher isn't working. Yes. Yeah. So exactly. So if you're trying to inch out all the power in your motors, and that's what you're interested in, peak flight performance, and it's like freestyle, like going over trees, you want to get the best prop wash performance you can, you want to have no shakes, no wobbles, you're going to move those PIDs up, you're going to, balance it in. You'll get better with lower PWM. It'll be easier. It's harder with higher PWM frequency, generally, especially in bigger quads, 6, 7, 8-inch. It's the first thing I always tune on a 6, 7, 8. I always move it down first. And then we go from there. Yeah, so Jose Diaz, yes, so he was saying he didn't think to check the motor. So always, if you have any jello, where it's like kind of that wavy thing, make like a bird symbol on my face. Oh. Yeah. Anyways, if you have a jello issues, yeah, you shouldn't be able to. It's so freaking dark. Grab your prop or your motor bell and try to move it up and down. And if you feel any movement You know, it's funny. Should listen to my own advice. That one had a little bit. This one has a little bit too. That one's a little bit. If you feel any movement up and down, these are very little though. I don't know if that's it. I'll check it out later. If you feel any slide up, this one has some. If you just feel any slide up and down, or even just like a half a millimeter, tighten that up a little bit. There's usually you have that if it has a screw in the bottom. If it has the C clamp, it just is what it is. But that will help with jello for sure. I just did a video on a 7-inch that had that issue. Slightly jitter vibration. So banister post. I have a slight jitter vibration on long range for 7-inch. Would 48K work here to smooth out or something else? Slight jitter, like a slight shaking banister post, like you'd get if it was windier. Is it not windy? I would assume it's not windy. If it's windy, your quad's gonna shake a little bit. Like you're just gonna have to. I mean, you know, obviously like a 5-inch doesn't shake as much as like a 7-inch or a 10-inch. So if it's not windy, I'm gonna go with not windy. If it's not windy, and it's just a slight vibration. Again, sure, it's easy. Set it to 48K. I bet you $10 is not going to fix it. Props. Get different props. If you're on bi-blades, for sure, get different props. Yeah. Yeah, it could almost be wind. So if it's wind, if you really think it's wind, move up the master multiplier. This is where tuning comes in. You want that. Wind is prop wash, basically, to some extent. I mean, it's not exactly the same, but the quad will push back against wind. And if you have a tune that's, you know, high PID gain tune, it will be better on that. It will hopefully catch, it will, because it can detect things that you can't even see, right? It's detecting that wind movement off course before you even see it, and it's adjusting the motors to compensate, and hopefully it does it fast enough that you just don't see the movement in the HD, because that's all you really care about. So yeah, that's what I would just move up the master. You know, if you don't have the master as high as it can be, which we talked about tonight, kind of showed about, then try moving that up. Yeah, give the 48K. You know, these setting changes are easy, right? Costs no money. Takes, what, a minute, 2 minutes to change? Give it a shot. What's it hurt? But I don't think the 48K is going to help you. But it doesn't hurt. Give it a shot. But don't forget about the master. Don't forget about just maybe getting some different props, especially if you're on bi-blades. Get tri-blades on there. So like a 7-inch I just tuned, it came with some gem fans. Nothing wrong with gem fans. But then I got some HQs, and they were a little bit better. There's a lot of quads I've tuned that I'll get HQs and put them on there to solve some issues, and then send it back to them and say, look, here's here's some HQs in the bag. Give these a shot. You should get the same results. If you don't, let me know. And then I don't hear from them, so I'm assuming everything went well, and they started using the HQs on the quad. Okay, so you have 7x4x3 8Qs. So you're in that good spot with them. HQs are usually, I mean, you can try gem fans too. I'm not saying HQ is the holy grail. They are generally good performers though. They've always served me well. But it never hurts to get some different props and try them. You can see how it goes. All right. Any other questions out there? Yeah, I do use. I don't exclusively use HQ on all my quads. I really like these Mr. Steel ones. I'm all about the low pitch props. I think everybody's going towards that. Maybe that's a trend. I don't know if it's a trend or not. I think it's more of a trend. But I really do like the Mr. Steel, like watermelons, and now he has the peanut butter and jellies, and I like those too. I think they're made. Are those made by HQ? I don't even know. Maybe they're not. They look kind of like HQ props though. All right. All right, any other questions? I guess got a question for you guys. Anybody using the walk snail avatar stuff? It's the latest rage nowadays. Nobody? Anybody? It takes a while before the feedback comes. I don't think I've ever used Bannister Post. I don't think I've ever used the GemFan F4 props. No VTXs. Nope. No VTXs. You can't get a VTX for the this thing yet. That's a shame. Yeah. Yeah. No. Oh, so they didn't ship those yet, but people are using it. I don't understand. Guess I need to look. Oh, the whole scenario's falling apart. Come on. Anyways, the yeah, well, so Brandon says they've released the walk snail early to beat DJI. I don't think they won. I don't know. It looks like a promising system-ish. Depending on, I have DJI and I don't like where it's going. Yeah, it's just a shame that like if we can't get air units anymore and stuff, that's what's gonna really that sucks. You know, you have this system with all this money put into antennas and they might just stop making VTX. They haven't. I mean, I understand you can get the run cam link and all that jazz, but I don't know. It's kind of a compromise. Sucks. Yeah, yeah. Bannister Post with the watermelons. All right, fellas. 5 more minutes in the stream. I guess if there's any questions, now is the time. It's plenty dark. I can't see much out. I'm not going to see a fox anymore out there. Hopefully you've learned something tonight. I got this quad tuned in a little bit more, I guess, so that's a good thing. I think the 03 will work with the 8. Yeah, but I want VTXs. All I want to be able to do. You're saying that you think the Bannister or Brandon, you're saying you think the newer DJI VTX or the like the newer air units or whatever will work with the V1 V2. We're talking about V2. V1 goggles. That's what I need. We're sure it's not going to get canvas mode out of it. What is the best way to tune without black box? There we go. By ear, man. You got to tune by ear. Listen to the quad. That's the best way to tune. You can't really see most of the stuff. If you see it, it's probably eye turn, but you gotta all the same things, all the same fundamentals apply. Listen for. So I have a video. Use ear holes. That's right, buddy. So I have a video. Let's go to that. Right here. So if you go to my website, theuavtech.com, go to the tuning page, which is down at the bottom on the main site. There's 2-pack tuning by ear. We use a 7-inch. So check that video out. We don't use black box at all. Side of that one is another video. Get rid of that pesky OBS. Another one here is toothpick. We use the Betaflight app. Also mostly by ear. And no black box. And then these just talk about some fundamentals, and these kind of are the basic one video per each, like tuning principles, filters, and we go into your kind of your PD balance stuff. Through this 4-step process, 5 steps going into yaw. So this is like micro tuning. This is like if you really want to split the atom. If you just want to get general, these two up here, or honestly just load a preset, man. So so Brandon's saying his new DJI VTXs. Switch back to here. Switch back to the dark. Ooh. New DJI VTXs is rumored to be backward compatible to some degree. Rumored. That's good. That's at least good hope. I mean, yeah. I mean, it's all just binding. It's all the same radio frequency stuff. I would hope. That would be good. PDFPV says, thanks, man, for all the videos you do and help so many people. That doesn't let you know. Yeah, I appreciate it. I hope this stuff helps. I hope the website helps kind of one source, so it's not like just searching random stuff on YouTube. I try to take the best. You know, even I make a lot of YouTube videos that it's like fragmented. It's like, it's fragmented, it's all over. Which video is the best? Which is the most current? I try to get the most current stuff, the best stuff that's basic on the website. So check out the uavtech.com and go from there. Happy FPV says, in other words, are the AIO terrible to tune? No, they're great to tune. Everything's easy to tune. But sounds good. This will wrap it up. I appreciate it. Did I miss any questions? This is a room cam, blah, 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 blah. I think since it's raining, it's actively raining, it's been raining. Again, you guys can predict every time I do a FlyStream, it will rain in Northeast PA. But appreciate you guys coming out tonight, hanging out with me. Hopefully it was somewhat entertaining, learned something a little bit. It's all little shenanigans with all the dark and adjustments for things. Have a nice night, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Thanks, everybody.